Welcome to a brief overview of the importance of emotional intelligence in nutrition and dietetics. Leadership is more than technical experience. It requires self-awareness, empathy, and emotional connection. So today I'm going to present two real-world scenarios, analyze them through leadership theories, and provide actionable strategies for you. All right, so in scenario one, we're going to work through navigating resistance from a patient. So the situation is a dietitian, such as ourselves, is working with a patient recently diagnosed with diabetes who is resistant to any dietary changes. The patient expresses frustration and distrust, stating that nothing ever works and that they just want to eat how they like. So some challenges that we're facing right now in this scenario is managing the emotional reactions and frustrations from both sides, building trust and rapport, and helping the patient see the value of change without being forceful. So some relevant leadership theories that we can focus on is first going to be the transformational leadership. And this is inspiring and motivating patients through empathy and encouragement. Always a great way to go. And the second one is going to be emotional intelligence model. So recognizing personal triggers that the patient may have, helping them self-regulate and fostering connection. Key emotional intelligence competencies and tools I'm going to use in this situation is the power of the pause. And this is from the Emotional Intelligence Simple and Actionable Guide. So just taking a deep breath before responding to avoid any emotional reactivity. This can help us from kind of taking away from a personal perspective and really just helping the patient. We're also going to focus on empathetic listening, so validating the patient's concerns before offering solutions. And the last one is going to be reframing. So I understand that this is frustrating, but let's find small changes that work for you. I think also trying to figure out what motivates them, what they are passionate about in life, and trying to relate it to the change. So how can changing also help them with their passion that they already are passionate about. So some guidelines and strategies for this is using the motivational interviewing techniques to encourage self-driven change, kind of like I just had mentioned. Helping the patient set realistic goals that align with their lifestyle. And encourage self-reflection in practice. Consider what might trigger resistance and how to respond constructively. And the impact on patient outcomes is going to be increased trust and openness to making dietary changes and better adherence to medical nutrition therapy. All right, and then scenario 2 is going to be building culturally competent relationships. So in this situation, a dietitian meets with a patient from a different cultural background who hesitates to follow recommended dietary changes because they conflict with traditional foods and family customs. This happens a lot where I live in Hawaii because we have a lot of different very prominent cultures. So some of the challenges that we face in this is really trying to understand the patient's cultural perspective without making any assumptions. We want to find a balance between medical recommendations and cultural preferences, and we really want to try to avoid any bias or dismissing the patient's lived experiences. So some relevant leadership theories that we can apply here are servant leadership, and this is placing the values and of the patient first. And then the next one is going to be situational leadership, and this is adapting the approach based on the patient's background and openness to change. Some key emotional intelligence competencies and tools that we can use are going to be mindful observation, and this is just acknowledging emotions and biases before engaging. Also, we want to be asking the right questions. So asking open-ended questions about the patient's food traditions is a really good way to get to know kind of where they're coming from, figuring out what foods they eat, when they eat them, how often, what for, if there's any cultural significant parties or events, those type of things are all important. And then body awareness, noticing subtle cues of discomfort or resistance is also going to be very important in helping navigate the conversation. So some guidelines and strategies we can use is approach the conversation with curiosity. So can you tell me about foods that are important to you and your family? That would be a great example of a curious conversation. And integrate traditional foods into the meal plan rather than eliminating them. So trying to find kind of subtle substitutes, maybe brown rice instead of white rice, which is a popular dish here. And that can be kind of something that is similar, but helping to just a little bit more align with their nutrition goals. And then reflecting on our own biases and how they might influence recommendations is also going to be very important. And the way this is going to impact our patient outcomes is that it's going to increase patient engagement and trust. And it's also going to have higher adherence to nutrition interventions. All right, so some key takeaways from today is that emotional intelligence helps dietitians build trust, improve communication, and enhance patient outcomes. So strong self-awareness is the foundation of strong leadership. Understanding personal reactions and biases lead to better patient care. Using practical emotional intelligence strategies like pausing before reacting, empathetic listening, and cultural humility can transform challenging situations into productive conversations. So today I'm going to leave you with one last quote, and that is that a little nonsense now and then is relished by the wisest men. And this comes from a great leader, Willy Wonka. But this is just to kind of remind us that humor and playfulness also enhance emotional intelligence. So leaders who create a comfortable environment, especially with their patients, do foster a better relationship and have more effective patient outcomes. So I encourage you this week to have to just apply one of these emotional intelligence strategies in your practice and reflect on its impact. Thank you so much for listening.